Hello, my name is Movingcat and welcome back to my strategy guide for the 2023 Halloween event. In this video I will show you this very simple strategy on how to play the game. It's a foolproof way, you don't have to worry about a thing. But before I go into that and this flowchart here you can follow, let me quickly mention that if you haven't already, or if you're not familiar with the event, I recommend checking out my minigame tutorial first. In that video, I play through 2 full games explaining what I do, and I also go over the difference between a full dungeon and a cheap dungeon. And that's quite an important distinction that I will use in this video. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, check out my minigame tutorial before starting this video. Alright, now before going into the strategy, I quickly want to talk about the rewards you can get in the event. By all means, skip ahead to the strategy section using the timestamps if you are interested in that. So, I will not go into details, but I just want to say that the main building, the Laboratory of Monstrosities, is definitely a very good building, and I recommend getting it. It gives a lot of attack boosts, it gives a lot of forge points, goods, and so on. It also gives fragments for the Ectoplasmic Nightmare selection kit, which includes 2 quite good new buildings. Another new building you can get is the Sparkspawn Stormspire. This is definitely my favorite building from the event. It is more or less a better Sentinel outpost for attack boost. It is a 1x1 building, it does not require a road, and it gives between 3 and 6% attack boost for your attacking army at level 4. So this is a lot. It also gives forge points and fragments for the Daunting Tower, typo, at the final levels, so definitely worth getting. And you will get a lot of these from the minigame itself. So yeah, definitely go for that. So, as I mentioned, the Ectoplasmic Nightmare selection kit, you can get that from the main building in this event. Here you have 2 options. One of them is quite a good one for city defense or for blue attack boosts. Also gives defense for attacking army, some goods. It does need population and happiness. But yeah, quite good. And then we have the Monster Ranch Nightmare box, which is definitely my favorite out of these 2. It gives a lot of attack, 3 combined attack per tile. For the size, it's a very small building, 2x1, no road required. It also gives some fragments of the store building and some forge points. This as well requires population and happiness, so another good building. That's not all, we also have 2 new buildings that are added to the daily specials. We have the Tower of Whispering Horrors, which is probably my recommendation for the daily specials. It gives a lot of attack and defense boost for attacking army. And yeah, considering the size and considering how many you can get, which I'll go over later on in the event, this is definitely a very nice building to increase your attack boosts if you need that. On the flip side, if you need defending boosts for your defending army, you can go for the Monster Wears Terrors Boutique, also a really good options. Alright, so that's the new buildings. I haven't included it here, but you can also get a golden upgrade kit for, where is it? A golden upgrade kit for the Tarot Card Caravans from last year. Definitely worth getting if you have that building, which you probably do. And as I'll go over later on, you probably will be able to get to it. Not easily, but if you put in effort, you can definitely get there, I believe. So yeah, I will not go through all of the other grand prizes. Just know for now that you need 3,600 progress to get the main building fully leveled, or 3,000 if you're able to end up in Bronze League or higher. So that is the top 20% of players. So depending on your world, 3,000 might be enough for that. Alright, with that out of the way, let's talk about strategies, and let me first start with what you are probably here for, what I call foolproof event strategy. It is as simple as this. You should play 3 card decks every day, and to help you decide which card deck to choose each turn, so which one you should choose, I've made this flowchart here. So let me go through it with some examples. So first on question here, do you have any remaining free card decks? And by free, I mean decks that you can choose here without spending any teeth. So every day you're able to choose each of these 3 card decks once, but after you have chosen them, they will be locked, and in order to unlock them, you have to spend some teeth. So my recommendation and my strategy is based on playing each of these 3 games every day, but not more than that each day. So never, unless you have to, unlock lock the card decks. So the first question, do you have any remaining free card decks? On this example here, I don't. So I go down here to no. Do you need to catch up on spending teeth? So if, for example, you go a couple of days without the ability to play, then you might have to spend a little bit more on the remaining days. And if that is the case, you might have to open or unlock 1 or 2 of these on a couple of days. But that will depend on how long you have, how much you haven't been able to play, and how many teeth you have remaining. So yeah, if you don't need to catch up, then you should stop playing for the day. Now, if you have remaining free card decks, which we do here in this example, if you do, then you should go down here. Are you able to choose the card deck recommended by the tip? As I went over in my tutorial, there are different types of cards with bonuses and weaknesses against certain other cards. And to decide which of these card decks is the best, you can follow this tip here that you always have. In this case, choose the werewolf deck to outshine vampires. So here, it is strongly recommended to go for the werewolves. This will have a lot more werewolf cards, which will be able to deal more damage to the vampires. So in this example here, I am able to choose the card deck recommended by the tip. So I go down here to this box. Do you have more than 500 teeth plus 100 teeth for each remaining free card deck after this fight? Basically what this means is, do you have enough teeth to play a full dungeon with this card deck? Now on average, I think you can probably expect to pay around 350 teeth per full dungeon, but sometimes that might be more. So to be a little bit safe, I have included 500 teeth here. But also a few or some more teeth, so 100 more teeth for every remaining free card deck. Because after this fight, in this example, I do still have 2 more dungeons to play, so I do want to have some teeth to at least play those as cheap dungeons. So in this case, I don't have enough teeth, so I will drop down here, and the decision is to play a cheap dungeon with the recommended card deck. So here I should choose the recommended card deck, I should start the dungeon, and I should play it as a cheap dungeon. Again, check out my minigame tutorial for more information about what that means. Now here, of course, I do have a lot of quests that I'm able to complete if I want to. The event has just started, so I'm definitely able to get over the 700 or so teeth that I recommend. So in this case, I say that I have enough teeth, and I do. Then I can go down here to playing the full dungeon with the recommended card deck. So again, choosing the recommended card deck, but this time playing it as a full dungeon. Alright, now let's go back up to this step here. Are you able to choose the card deck recommended by the tip? So here, say that I had already played a dungeon in this event, on this day, and the tip was still the same, choose the werewolf deck to outshine vampires. So if I didn't have the werewolf available, if this was locked like it is in this world here, in that case I should go down to the other side. Can you choose same card deck as enemy card deck? And you can find the enemy card deck here in the tip. The last name here, or last type here, will be the enemy card deck, enemy card type. So in this case, I am able to choose the same card deck as the enemy card deck, in which case I go down here, and the decision is to play a cheap dungeon with the same card deck as enemy. So I should choose the vampires, again assuming I don't have the ability to choose werewolf without spending teeth. I should start the dungeon and play a cheap dungeon. Now, let's assume that both werewolf and vampires were crossed out. In that scenario, I'm not able to choose the deck recommended by the tip. I am not able to choose the same card deck as the enemy. In practice, that means that you just have one card deck remaining, and you should play a cheap dungeon with that remaining card deck, regardless of how, if it is a good or bad against the enemy. So that is the strategy. Just follow this, and after a day or two, this really should be intuitive. In practice, this means that if you are able to choose the strong deck, the one that is recommended, and you have enough teeth, then you play it as a full dungeon. If not, then you play as a cheap dungeon and choose your card deck according to these criteria here. Alright, hopefully that made sense, and hopefully this is easy to follow. Again, after a couple of days, you don't have to refer to this. This will just be natural, and you'll be able to choose on your own. So why does this work? What is the reasoning behind this? And why do I call it the foolproof event strategy? Let me go over that, but if you want to skip right ahead to the section where I talk about if you can get the main building fully leveled, daily specials, and so on, feel free to use the timestamps. If you're still around, let's go over why this works. So for the event, my recommendation is to play each of these 3 card decks every day. That means that you will be able to play 63 card decks or 63 dungeons across the event, but you don't have enough teeth to play all of those as full dungeon. I think at most you will be able to play 2 full dungeons per day, but depending on how well you do, that might be lower as well. However, it doesn't really matter if you play, let's say, half of these games that you are going to play as full dungeons. It doesn't matter if you spread those across the entire event, or if you play all of them in the beginning and then just play cheap games for the rest of the event, depending on how many teeth you have remaining. It doesn't matter. And because of that, it doesn't matter if you play a lot of full dungeons early on. In fact, that is my recommendation. So in this case, whenever you are able to choose the tip here, you should play a full dungeon. Now, the second factor that makes this possible is that each day you get, once you get past the rush quests, each day you get 250 teeth from the daily quest, and you get 150 teeth from the daily login, so 400 teeth per day. And with those 400 teeth, you are able to play each of these 3 dungeons as a cheap dungeon. What that means is that you don't really have to save any teeth for the next day. You will always be able to get enough teeth on a given day to play the 3 cards. So because of that, you should try to play as many full games as possible early on, to spend as much as possible. And that way you don't end up in a situation like you could see in my minigame tutorial, where I had a lot of teeth remaining on the final days. Now, another reason why I call this foolproof is that this works regardless of how well you play and regardless of how many full dungeons you end up playing. You can always, when you get to, regardless of how much you spend, this will work. It'll just be a matter of how many full dungeons you're able to play versus cheap dungeons. But regardless, following this will work. So that is the only recommendation I have for this event, because I think everybody should be able to follow it. If you want a little bit more detailed explanation, I do have some of it in writing here on my written guide. You can find this in the description. For now, though, I think we will move on to talk about expected progress per dungeon and also from the event in total. So, on average, you can get 2 Thief ability cards when you play the full dungeon. So, assuming you do get 2 Thief ability cards, I explain why those are so good in my minigame tutorial, you will be able to get these keys per full dungeon, which means you get 118 progress per full dungeon. This will be important a little bit later on. Now, for the cheap dungeons, it depends quite heavily on, well, on luck, but also on how many teeth you want to spend on the dungeon. So here you can find a table of how much progress you get, but if you're able to defeat all the enemies up to a certain enemy. So if you're able to defeat all the enemies up to enemy 5, and including enemy 5, you are able to get 16 progress from this game. Now, if you spend a little bit of teeth, so I would say between 50 and 100 teeth, I think you're quite likely to end somewhere in this region here. So perhaps 30, 35 total progress per game, for perhaps around 75 teeth per cheap dungeon on average. And not sure if I mentioned it, but on average I expect around 350 teeth per full dungeon. But yeah, that will vary on how well you're able to play and how lucky you are in the event. Now, if instead you only spend a little bit, say that you only spend 25 teeth, for example, then you will probably end somewhere in this region instead, for perhaps 10, 15, perhaps 20 progress on average per cheap dungeon. So yeah, that's the amount you can get per dungeon. Before we go into how much progress you can get from the entire event, let's quickly talk about extra progress from daily challenges and the 2x bonus for chests. So in the event, you can get bonus or extra progress from daily challenges. So if we go back in game here, and if I go to the next day, you can see that one of these options will give some keys. On average, this will give you 17.1 progress per day, for a total of 359 progress for the entire event, which is definitely not bad. Although, if you're lazy like me, I'm not sure if it is worth going for it. If you don't otherwise do daily challenges. I stopped doing those quite a long time ago. The other way is by opening a chest every day. So in the minigame here, I think I've opened both of these. Let's quickly go to another world so that I can show. So if I go to my higher age units world, been a while since I logged in here as well. So here, I need to play through the tutorial. Okay, never mind. We don't need to worry about that. So every day, the first chest you open will give you 2 times the number of rewards. So it will, if you get the daily special, for example, it will give you 2 daily specials. It will give you 26 champions, etc. But it also increases the amount of progress you get. So if you use that on the gold chest, you will get an additional 24 progress every day. So across the event in total, that means that you can get 504 progress, which is definitely very nice and very easy to do. You just need to click once per day, and that way you can get 500 additional progress. That one I do think is worth going for. All right, now how much can you expect to get? How much progress can you expect to get? And to help with that, I have made this simulator here that I will explain. So here you can first enter how many teeth you expect to get. You can get 14,700 from quests and milestones. So I've just put this at 15,000. You can get some from incidents and so on. Then you can enter how many teeth you expect to spend for each full dungeon on average. So here I have 350. I think this is, or this is what I expect it to be around, but check for yourself, keep a track of how much you spend, and you will be able to get a better idea of how much you need to spend per full dungeon. Then you have the average number of teeth you want to spend on cheap dungeons. So when you play full dungeons, you always need to spend as much as you need to, so you don't really have too much choice. But for the cheap dungeons, you can choose how much you want to spend. So here I have put this to 75 on average. You can mess around with that a little bit in a little bit to check how that impacts things. But yeah, that's my choice for now. And in total, we have 21 days of the event, 3 games per day, so 63 in total. Now, here you can enter in how much progress you expect to get. So for each full dungeon, I expect 118. That's the number from here, 118 progress. And then from cheap dungeons, I think I'm going to put this at 30. So with 75, I expect to land somewhere here on average. So let's say 30 on average. Will I go for the double chest? Let's say yes for now. Will I go for the daily challenges? Let's leave it on yes for now, but I'll probably go to false in a moment. So with all of these settings, I can click this run button here, and we should get some results. So with these numbers here, I can play 37 full dungeons and 26 cheap dungeons. Now, this is the expected amount of full and cheap dungeons based on these settings, but you don't really have to care about these. If you follow my flowchart here, you might end up there, you might do better, you might do worse in terms of how many full dungeons you're able to play, but regardless, it will work. It doesn't really matter. So how should I put it? I'm not sure if I explained that well, but this is an indication of what you're expected to do. But if you follow my recommendation, it doesn't matter if you actually achieve this or not. This is just an indication of what you might end up doing. So if you don't end up achieving these numbers here, that's perfectly fine. That's not a problem at all. So use these as indications, not as targets that you need to hit. Anyways, with this, with all of these settings, I'm expected to get around 6,000 total progress. And you might remember we need 3,600 for the main building to level 8. We'll get the silver and golden upgrades from the building itself. So based on this, it is definitely very easy to get the main building. I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. Now, say instead that I needed to spend 450, for example. And if I still spent 75 teeth on average for cheap dungeons, in this case, I have enough to play 27 full dungeons, 36 cheap dungeons, for a total of around 5,000 progress. So you do need to go quite far up here before you start dropping below the 3,600 point. So even with 6,000 or 650 progress per dungeons, you are above the target. Now, this does include 800 points from opening the double chest and from the daily challenges. Let's put the daily challenges to false. So if you don't do the daily challenges and run, so now with these settings here, 650 average teeth per full dungeon, you can play, or you will get around 3,900 points. So you can see that even if you have to spend a lot of teeth per dungeon, you should be able to get what you need. So here you can play around with your numbers. Personally, I think I'll land somewhere around here, but I don't really know. That's something that I'll have to experiment with and figure out what I get on live, and then based on that I can update these and find my expected amount of total progress. So use this if you want. Let's do another way of explaining why you can get the main building full leveled for free. So, as I mentioned, you need 3,600 progress to get the level 8. You'll get the golden, silver and golden from the building itself. So with that, and if you get 118 progress per dungeon, you need to play 31 full dungeons. And this means that you can spend 474 teeth per dungeon. However, this is not including the extra progress you get from opening the first chest every day and from daily challenges. If you include both of those, then you only need to play 24 full dungeons for around 613 teeth per dungeon. Now, both of these numbers here they assume you only play these dungeons here, that you don't play any of the free dungeons, which you always should do anyways. So in reality, these numbers here are very conservative estimates. In reality, these are quite a bit higher. Because you will also get a decent amount of progress for free, even if you don't redraw or spend any teeth at all on the remaining games. If you just click fight, fight, fight as much as you can, you will still be able to get a decent amount of progress from those games. So, in summary, don't worry at all. As long as you play, if not every day, at least quite a few days, you should definitely be able to get the main building fully leveled for free. Alright, let's talk a little bit about daily specials and how to maximize them. Because there is a way to maximize the amount of daily specials you can get. So each of these chests here, if I close this for a moment, in each of these you have a certain chance of getting the daily special, but in each tier you have a range of chances. So the bronze chest can have a 5% chance for the daily specials like here, or it can have a 10 and even 15% chance. The silver chest here can have a 10, 15 or 20% chance, and the gold chest here can have a 20 or 25% chance. So ideally, you always want to pick a chest when this chance is at its maximum. And when you choose a chest, all of these 3 chests refresh. They will get a new value. So what that means is that for each selection here, you can check, do any of them have the maximum bonus? So in this case, this is not the maximum, this is not the maximum, this is not the maximum. Quite an unfortunate draw. So if none of them are maximum, I recommend just choosing the bronze chest. But now in this selection, let's see, here we do now have the maximum daily special bonus in the gold chest. So now, if I had the keys, I could choose this and I would be guaranteed to get the highest chance for the golden keys. Now here we have 15, that is not the highest chance. Here we have 5, that is also not the highest chance. So basically, whenever you are able to choose the highest chance, choose that. And if you have FOE Helper installed, you can quickly look at all the chances here, so you don't have to hover over them or click on them on mobile to get the chances. You can have a quick glance here. And actually, speaking of the FOE Helper, if you saw my tutorial, I was using a brand new feature of the FOE Helper where you could see your full card deck on the side. That should be added to the live version of the extension quite soon. So in a day or two, it should be available for you as well. If you want it right now, you have to download the beta version of the FOE Helper. So if you know how to do that, you can do that. You can search on how to do it. If not, just wait a day or two and that should be available as well for you. All right. Now, let's talk a little bit about how many daily specials you can expect. And here you can expect quite a lot. I will not go through the numbers here. You can read them for yourself if you want. But I actually think you might be able to get over 50 daily specials on average, which is quite insane if you ask me. Now, this is if you play every day, if you play all 3 games every day, if you play a full dungeon at least for half of the dungeons. So you do need to play every day, and you do need to play some full dungeons every day. But if you do, I think you should have enough keys to get over 50 daily specials on average, which is quite insane if you ask me. All right. Now, I don't have any diamond spending tips right now. I am recording this quite late. I've been quite busy recently, so I haven't been able to do this before now. So I decided to record this without talking about diamond spending. If you want, you can check it for yourself, and in the upcoming day or two, I will also add some of my thoughts here. But for now, I focus on the most important stuff, and that is playing the event and how to play it very easily. Alright, I think that is all I want to say for this video. But before I end, let me thank my Patreons. Ooh, I see that I need to rescale my asset. Give me a moment. I really don't want to edit this, so let me fit that to screen. Ooh, incorrect. So this is what you get for messing around with your settings. There we go. Let me thank my Patreons. Sorry for this. Let me thank Homestar, Lorden, Kim Kelly, Rolf the8, Dan Simonad, Chanti, Hecate, Dark Matter, Mylia, Sierra K, Merrick B, Hugo Kant von Count, Drew the Generous, Susan Weiss, Rocco, Spike from No Remorse, Merthin Anyways, Atomic, Flavius the Avenger, Arkler, Jibber, Whiskey Mar and Sir, Hoss, Alexander Kleber, Adarel, Mike, Upsy the Obsessed, Ruth, Karen, Dennis, Flavius Belisarius, Stampe, Podger, Music77, Niklas, Mike So, Michael, and Early Morning. Thanks a lot for your support, thanks for watching, take care, and I will see you in the future. Bye bye.